Welcome to McGonigal's Chronicles, Making Montana Connections. I'm KRTV and KXLH anchor and reporter Tim McGonigal. Nnamdi Kanaga always hoped his dream of making films would bring him to America. He just didn't know that journey would bring him to Big Sky Country. But even after enduring his share of Bozeman winters, he wouldn't have it any other way. The Nigerian native recently debuted his first feature film, Water Girl, in Helena and Bozeman. It comes on the heels of another film he wrote and directed called Hail Mary, which he says is the first Montana film with an all-black cast. He also penned a short memoir called Onwu Chekwu, which translates to Death Waits. I recently talked to him about growing up in Nigeria in a military family and how he got interested in making movies. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Nnamdi Kanaga. Well, Nnamdi, thanks for taking time to join us today. And it's a lot of people are probably wondering, how does a guy who was born in Nigeria end up in Bozeman, Montana? And I know you're gonna tell me that story, but talk about growing up in Nigeria and eventually what led you to become not only a filmmaker, but I know you wrote a book too. But talk about childhood in Nigeria and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. I guess I would say, growing up, in Nigeria is pretty much regular childhood, young boy who, I think when I was growing up, I was more very much academic. I mean, I think I still am academic in a way, but it was
Mhm.
very much intense growing up. And then randomly, after school, I'm on my way home and I just hear a bunch of people talking and I go into the room and I see them acting and I'm like, oh wow, this sounds really cool. And then I'm like, can I try? And say, oh, go ahead. And I do it the first time and it becomes what I want to do all my life. And then that's just pretty much like how like I got into the arts. And then, I don't know if you know, but Nigerian film industry is called Nollywood. So
Okay.
that was a huge part of my growing up. And I grew up watching lots of films, lots of movies and stuff, and I really wanted to do what they were doing. So that kind of like influenced, my childhood in a way that it was more like I was very much artistic. Like I was like in the drama department in church. I was in drama department in my school. I was in the choir. I was in the dance. I was just everything every form that I could express myself artistically. I found myself naturally from the moment I saw those people in that. I can never forget those people in that room. The first time I saw them doing that thing in the room sort of like shaped what I feel probably existed somewhere but needed something to trigger it. So it's pretty much a strict father. My father was in the military. I grew up in the military base. So it was just like a weird, navigation, from a child of a military man whom everyone expected to like go the same route, like my dad, but I was in the arts. So it was just very weird. He didn't like it, but I guess I was the black sheep of the family in the way that I was very much artistic, and it was just like I couldn't help myself. So but anyway, at some point it got better, but strict childhood, and then as a son of a military father who ends up in the arts, it was just like serious, like a constant battle of like, hey, I don't think what you're doing is very right, you need to do this, and I'm like, no, I want to do that, and we just kept going back and forth. So pretty much what was really cool, I would say my childhood sort of like influenced who I am today,
Yeah.
actually.
And who, I mean, were there any actors or directors, either Nigerian or American or otherwise, that, maybe influenced you and maybe kind of stood out, that kind of helped you along your way to get into acting in the arts and directing eventually?
Mhm. Oh yeah, definitely for sure. Growing up, I'm not sure I knew the names specifically, but I knew
Mhm.
that I know I grew up watching Denzel Washington for sure. I know like the face was very familiar to me. I'm like, oh, this man can act. I'm like, oh, I want to be like this man. Denzel has always been you know, the one person that I saw growing up, and he wanted me. He inspired me to always want to be an actor. I just like the way he was. He was just so natural on screen. So I didn't know his name was Denzel growing up, but I just knew the face. As I became older, and oh my gosh, his name is Denzel. Okay, cool. Then I have a role model. So now I can put a name to the face, right? But as I became older and I started knowing more about film, because I have an undergrad in film, so
Mhm.
um, as growing up, then now I can say with my full chest that the two directors that have, inspired me. When I was in school, actually, when I was in college, Christopher Nolan and James Cameron were two
Yeah.
people that I actually like studied. I literally studied their directorial style, and I wanted to be like them, because they were not just directors, but they were directors who used imagery and symbols and semantics and all of those things to tell stories. Colors meant something, It wasn't just like a film. If you see a light flickering in the film, it meant something. And I wanted to do that. I like the structural style of their filmmaking. I wanted to be like them. Then as I delved more into my style, I started liking the styles of like Spike Lee and Jordan Peele. So now I would say James Cameron, Christopher Nolan, Spike Lee, and Jordan Peele are like the four directors that I really, really like, and I feel like their styles sort of like inspire my style of filmmaking.
Yeah, some pretty good people to kind of model yourself
Yeah.
after. And then
Mhm.
Nnamdi, getting to Bozeman, tell me how and why you finally ended up in Bozeman.
Well, I would say it wasn't like I chose. When I came to Bozeman, I started hearing people say things like Montana doesn't, you don't choose Montana, it chooses you.
Hmm.
It started making so much sense to me when I came here. So when I was in Nigeria, there's this film festival called the African International Film Festival. It's like one of the biggest festivals in Nigeria. It's every even filmmakers from like Black Panther 2 screened in Nigeria through that festival. So it's really, really huge. So in 2015, I applied to get a training. They offer classes in acting, production design, costume, and all kinds of filmmaking platforms. So I opted to get a training in acting for like a week. It was run concurrently with the festival. So I had no idea. I had no idea that after every course, they would select like five people from each classes to go to the US for like a training in filmmaking. So I went to the program, and luckily for me, I was one of the five that was selected from my class, and we were told we're going to come to the US for a scholarship. So haven't I've never been to the US before, I've never traveled out of the country before. So in my mind, I was like, okay, maybe it's going to be New York, LA, all those places that I've seen in movies. So I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be maybe New York, LA, or, California, Atlanta, because I knew of those things when I watched movies. And, they were like, well, we're going to go to Montana. I'm like, okay. I mean, it's America, right? Yeah, okay, cool. So fast forward to June of 2016, we fly into New York, and I'm like, oh wow, New York. Okay, this place feels familiar. I've seen it in movies and stuff. And then they were like, no, this is the first stop. We're going to take like two flights to our final destination. I'm like, okay, cool. And then we fly into this place called Bozeman, Montana. I'm like, wow. At first, when I came the first time, it didn't dawn on me where I was, because I'm like, okay, it was cool. I was with my people, it still felt like America, it was cool, it was really nice and all of that.
Right.
When I came and I was done with the program, I wanted to come back. So I started working on applying for a master's in English, and I got it. So when I came back alone the second time, it was then I was like, oh wow, this is not the same as anywhere else. This is different. And ever since then, I've been here. It's just been amazing. The community. I would never like I tell people I would never film anything anywhere else that is not Montana, because of the beauty and how cinematically flexible it is. And most of all, the community, amazing. So anyway, that's how I go here, and it's been like I don't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah, and Montana State has a very good film program too. So I
Yes,
mean,
yes,
that's
yes.
a lot of people might not know that, but
Oh yeah,
had some
beautiful,
great
beautiful.
alumni out of there
Mhm.
too.
Yes, yes, for sure.
Yeah, and what time of year was it when you first got to Bozeman? Because I'm wondering, was it the middle of January when it's 25 below, or
No, actually, we came in June of 2016, and we're here to like the end to almost like I think August or so, like or thereabout. But we never go. We were actually one of those days we went to Helena for like for a trip or
Mhm.
something, and we ended up in a mountain somewhere. I don't know. that was where we saw snow for the first time, you know. But it was just like very tiny, powders of snow here and there. But it was when I came back again, and I came back in August of 2018, and then 2019, which is till at least in recent times one of the worst winters. So I was there 2019 February, and I remember calling my mom one day. I'm like, I think I'm gonna freeze to death. And she was like, no, no, no. It was crazy. And I had no idea because the first day it snowed in October of 2018. I wore flip-flops. I would never forget that day. I went to go see a play and I wore flip-flops that day. And I went, and while we were watching the play, it was snowing crazy. And when I came out, I don't know how I ended up in my apartment with my flip-flops, but it was just crazy. But anyway, yeah, it was when we came the first time, it wasn't really bad. But when I came by myself a year after, it was when I really, really experienced the weather. And I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you've made it through some of the worst parts of it, so
I
now
have,
you're
yes. Oh,
you're
now it's
you're
now,
now
now,
it's
now
nothing. Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
good.
Well, Namdi, your first debut feature film is out. It's called Water Girl. So, explain that film, what it's about, and what people can expect when they see it.
Yeah, definitely. Water Girl is it's I like to call it like a marriage between Africa and Montana. My culture, I'm Igbo, my Igbo culture I'm from Igbo from Nigeria. So my Igbo culture, it's like a very beautiful marriage between the Igbo culture and Montana. So Water Girl basically is a story of a Nigerian woman who lived in Bozeman. She was married to a professor and she lived in Bozeman. And while she was married to a professor, she couldn't bear a child. She's been looking for a child for a very long time. And she's been having miscarriages and losing her children. So it was something, as an African woman, she knows the value of children in marriage. And she really
Mhm.
wanted a child so bad. And so and then luckily for her, she gets a child. And then when the child comes 18 years later, it's almost like the child is going through series of like supernatural experiences, and she has no idea why this is happening. And then in the long run, she discovers that her child is actually of the water, and the child must go back to the water. So I don't want to give away too much. And then, when we watch the movie, you get to find out why the child is of the water. But anyway, it's a battle between protecting her child and letting go of a child that doesn't actually belong to her, So it's a story of how we wrestle with nature. So in a way, it's more, if you look at it from an eco-critical perspective, it's about like how we and nature are constantly like fighting to get what we want. We take from nature, nature comes back and takes everything from us, basically. So it's a beautiful story about like family, love, motherhood, childbirth, mother and daughter, and just like faith, belief, spirituality, you know, um, people that come into a new space and how they battle with their own culture and finding a balance between living in this new space and still, going back to like your roots and stuff like that. So it's just a very nice family drama that just like explores, all of these themes, but from the one eco-critical perspective and two the Igbo spiritual perspective.
You also have a film that has already been released called The Hail Mary.
Hmm.
And this, if I understand, it's a very significant film because this is the first Montana film with an all-black cast. So,
Yeah.
so very important. But also watching the trailer, I haven't watched the film yet, but looks very interesting. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Talk about the Hail Mary, the idea behind that, and what
Yeah.
people can expect when they watch that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the Hail Mary was my first attempt at trying to like see. That was my very first film that I made, and in Bozeman, Livingston actually, and I wanted to just like explore and see how filmmaking in Montana looks like. And for me, but the story itself is very important because it deals with the complex relationship between fathers and sons, and myself I lost my dad in 2019 while I was in school in
Mhm.
Bozeman, and so when he passed away, I wanted to like to like explore the idea of like, like when you have like we see parents as like superheroes, and when they make a mistake, we almost expect them to be very perfect. So when they make a mistake, it's almost like, wow, I shouldn't have done that. We feel this animosity towards them because we see them as this like all powerful beings or whatever. But parents are actually like human beings, and they're also bound to make mistakes. So the movie was just for me to see, to be able to tell young people like myself that it's okay for us to give our parents, to extend the same grace that we expect to be extended towards us. It's very okay to extend that same grace to our parents. And I wanted to also use that medium to tell young boys, young boys who have some kind of estranged um um thing going on with their fathers. I wanted to use the film to tell them that it's okay for you to reach out to your father. They may not know everything. They may not know maybe the way they are handling you is the only way they feel best. Is the only way they know how to. So you being a young adult, it's okay for you to also reach out and say, "Hey, Dad, I don't like this," or "Hey, Dad, why did you do this to me?" And have a conversation. It's okay to create that culture of reaching out. Because having lost my dad, there were things that I wish I could have told him. And which is funny because we already had plans of him coming down for my graduation the next year, and I had plans to sit him down and talk with him about certain things that I didn't really like about how he treated me and my arts. And I'm going to be like, hey, you see, I'm flying you down to the US through the same arts that you condemned. So I wanted to sit him down and talk to him about that, but I never got a chance to do that. So I wanted to use the film to extend to people and say, hey, you have a chance to tell your dad what's hurting you, and also create the opportunity for well-needed conversations. And which is funny because even the guy who played the lead role in the film was going through similar things with his dad. And so when we filmed the film and during the premiere, he opened up about calling his father and starting that conversation. And that made me feel, I cried on stage that day because of two things. I was like happy for someone being able to do that. And I was just so sad that I was not able to, I would never be able to do that for myself. And I've had many people call me and tell me, hey, I watched your movie and it made me call my dad, and now we're not there yet, but we're getting to that point where things are getting better. And it makes me feel good about that too. And also it also talks about veterans and war and all of that, which the
Hmm.
male plays a part in the film. And he tells me that, exactly what he did in the film was what he did when he was in the military. And it was just so beautiful. I get calls and emails from ex-veterans who have gone through similar things, and then they tell me, "Hey, this movie really spoke to me in this way and that way," and it makes me feel really good about it.
Yeah, and you also not only directed that film, right?
Mm.
But you were one of the actors in the
I
film.
was, yeah, and
Yeah.
I
Do you
yeah,
prefer acting, directing, or both, or one
oh,
above the other?
that's a very, very interesting question you're asking right now because I started as an actor. I really wanted to be an actor so bad. Like it was always acting. Like I told you my story of encountering
Mhm.
people acting. I wanted to be an actor. But with acting, it's like there are no opportunities out there, to play role, especially where you see like a growing community, like a growing filmmaking community like in Montana. It's really not a lot of stories are being told. The few ones that come in, they bring actors from LA, here. So it's very complicated. So when I came in here and I wasn't getting enough opportunities to act, I didn't want to be the one who would say, "Oh, I didn't get a chance to act, so I'm just going to kill my career." No, I wanted to still tell stories, and I slowly found myself writing and directing. So now I really enjoy writing and directing right now. So for the acting part, it's just like if I get a chance to do it, I will, but I'm not really that much desperate about it anymore. But deep down, I know that there will be a role that will come to me one day that will really explore my acting skills. But until then, I'm still just gonna be writing and directing. Even my films too. For Water Girl, I never I when I till I wrote the script and I was done with the script, I was like, oh wow, there's no part for me to play. That's crazy. Oh wow, okay, well whatever. And that was it. I wasn't bothered about it. I was like, okay, cool. I'm okay with just directing the film.
All
So
right.
directing and writing, it's fine with me.
Good, good. Now, getting back to Water Girl, I understand it was partly funded by a Big Sky film grant. So, what exactly is that, and how helpful was that? Because I know making a film
Mhm.
on the level that you're making is
Yeah.
is is not a inexpensive venture.
No, it's very expensive. Very, very. Yeah. So I want to use the opportunity to say a very big thank you to the Montana Film Office and the Big Sky Film Grant. Without them, honestly, Water Girl would never have existed in the first place because there was no way I was going to raise money to make the film. Which is funny because I wanted to apply for the feature film grant, but there was the requirements were there were a lot of requirements for that. So I couldn't meet up to that requirement. What I did was I condensed the story to a short film script, and I used the short film script and applied for the short film grant, and I got $20,000, and I used $20,000 to make my feature film. So that's what I did. And without that $20,000, I would never had made Water Girl. So the Big Sky Film Grant is a beautiful opportunity created by the Montana state government to help storytellers bring stories to life. So I'm very thankful for them. I'm thankful for what they do, and it's been helpful. I have friends from, in Bozeman who apply to the grant and they get it and they make beautiful stories. So for me to have gotten the opportunity to be able to tell Water Girl, a Nigerian story in Montana through them, amazing. So I'm very thankful. They've been really helpful, and not only helpful, throughout the process, guiding you, everything. Before you get the money, there's a lot of steps to take, and it was like very easy process guiding you through all of them. Shout out to Keenan, who was just helpful throughout all of them. Sorry, Kivan, amazing. It was just helpful throughout. So anybody who wants to apply to the grant, you're in good hands. Once you do the work and do the paperwork and have all the rightful requirements, you're good to go.
Yeah. And I wanted to get back to the Hail Mary film one
Yeah.
more time. Sorry to keep bouncing back and forth,
That's
but
that's that's okay.
the Hail Mary, that is that available to stream anywhere? Is it
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The
Netflix,
Helmet is
Amazon,
available.
or
Yeah, yeah, it's on Amazon, it's on Apple TV.
okay.
I think it's on Kako. If you, it's on, I think it's on YouTube actually too. There's a channel on YouTube that
Okay.
has, so it's everywhere. It's on, but if you use for better quality, Apple TV and Prime Video available, for you to watch. It's a beautiful small film, that everybody can relate to. If you have family, if you have a family friend or a brother, father, uncle, mother, auntie who was in the military or who is still in the military, you are going to be able to relate to the story because it's just amazing. And it was filmed right here. Every single thing was filmed right here in Montana, even the scenes that happened in Afghanistan was right here in Montana State. So that tells you how cinematically flexible Montana State is. You can do anything here. If I can make an African film in Montana, you can do anything here. Trust me, it's just beautiful. So yeah, please
Yeah.
watch and let us know your thoughts and what you think about it too.
Yeah. So Namdi, as a filmmaker, I was wondering what your thoughts are about if you could talk about the importance of art, especially in a time when we hear about on a nationwide level cuts to arts and arts programs and libraries and
Yeah.
museums and things like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And art that you make and that others like yourself make is so important to
Yeah.
talk about why it's important and why we
No,
need to
honestly,
fund it.
yeah. No, honestly, for real, art is life. Like art is life. Because they something they always say like art mirrors life. But I just like to say art is life. And so how can you take away life from people? You can't do that. If you put your hands on someone's nose and stop their breathing, they're gonna die. So that's exactly there's gonna be a literal death in the world if art is taken away from people. People go to work and they struggle every day and they come down and they put on TV to watch something on TV to wind away, to forget about the struggles of life. Or people also watch TV or films or movies or whatever to see themselves represented on screen, to see their stories being told. People go to museums and see art that has been preserved to remember history, to remember their ancestry, their origin. People read books, to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So if you take that away from people, you're taking away what keeps the organ that sustains life, literally. So I feel like it's of paramount importance that our arts are being funded because it's just part of us. It's and that's the one way to preserve history. For example, let's say the Maryland law, for example, now it's a state is a space that carries out all the artistic endeavors in Helena, for example, on the music, concerts, films, theater happens there. So just imagine what will happen if they lose an opportunity to remain there. It's just going to be like, okay, how do we go? Where do we go to learn? Where do we go to be entertained? Where do we go to watch life presented to us? Where do we go to listen to music? To all those things. If it's taken away from us, it's just going to kill. We're not going to just sit down and just watch football or watch the game or the news or go to work. Life will be very boring, quite literally. So I feel like it's just important to keep this to keep our artistic endeavors going because it's culture. That's how we preserve our culture, our history. I don't want to take that away from people. You don't want to do that to people. So I feel like it's very important that art is funded. Keep us going. Please, we need you. We need the funding, we need the money to keep us going, to sustain the very life that gives us what we need to live in this world. The world is just going crazy these days. People need to be entertained. People need something to make them forget about the struggles of life. And if you take that away from them, just imagine what will happen if you can't put on the TV and watch something fun. You can't
Right.
you can't go to the theater to watch a play. You can't listen to music. You can't watch a film. You know, it's not gonna be good.
Right, right.
Not gonna be
Well,
good.
Nnamdi, in addition to your films, I also saw that you have written a short memoir,
I
and
do.
let me see if I get this right. It's called Onwu Chekwa. Is
I'm
that
gonna give
close?
you I'm gonna give you a 5 on 10. That was really, really good, actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's called Onwu Chekwa. Yeah.
Onwu Chekwa. Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me about that, what that's
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. So this memoir, which I recently published, it's out on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and everywhere you get your books from. So it's a memoir that I actually wrote this book in 2019.
Okay.
So it's funny because I wrote because the book is about my late brother, and it's just me trying to understand what grief is. Because I feel like even 11 years after he passed away, I still don't know what grief is. I still find myself struggling in trying to understand my grief. When somebody calls me about their own loss, it makes me also try to understand mine because even after years after, I still don't even understand what grief really is. So in 2019, I was in a class in, my class, a creative writing class in Montana State University,
Mhm.
and they wanted us to write a memoir for a class project. And I didn't really, that was my first time knowing what a memoir was, and I was like, okay, cool. What do I do? And I wanted to tell the story of my brother, to keep his memory alive in paper. Basically, that was just the plan. So I wrote the memoir for the class. I got an A. It was amazing. It was good. And then I was like, you know what? Let me try to see if I can put this somewhere. So I wanted to put it as an article or like a feature in a newspaper, something like that. And then that was in April. May, my dad passes away. And then I'm like, wow, okay, this is a new level of grief now. So I keep the book. I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. Let me try to navigate this new loss. And then it's just been there. Now, this year, for some reason, I was like, okay, I think this year I need to revisit that book because I lost two friends this year, and I unlocked another level of grief again that I did not really know what was going on. For days, I was just like, what is happening? So it made me go back to my book, and I read the book again. I was like, okay. And I edited, sent to my friends, the peer reviews, and did all the everything. They were like, "This is really good." I said, "Okay, cool," and I started to publish it. And barely my friends that people I give out like the digital copy to read and let me know their reviews told me, wow, this made them also try to understand their own grief. I'm like, okay, cool. This book is not just only a book about my brother's death, but also a book that helps people understand their grief. So this is not it's not a book that begs for pity, or it's not a book that explains grief, but a book that provides understanding to Nnamdi's grief after losing his brother and then his father. and also the power of names. Because my younger brother's Igbo name was Onwuchekwa, and Onwuchekwa
Okay.
means death, wait. So
Mm.
imagine being named Death, wait, but in reverse, Death did not wait, and Death did not only wait, Death did not only not wait, he came very early and snatched him at 16. So it's like, how do you name somebody a strong name as Death Wait, which is like a command, a plea, or a name that was meant to protect him. But unfortunately, Death did not only not wait, but he came and took him as early as possible. That was just me navigating the power of that name and how haunting it is. And then fast forward years after, my name is Nnamdi, which means my father is present, and then my father dies. So like those names is like, okay, how do you bear a name that's supposed to protect a loved one, but then it turns out to be the irony of it all. So it's just me just navigating all of those things in a short book. And I didn't want it to be too long, just very briefly and quickly, and then I was
Mhm.
done. So it's a pretty beautiful book, and yeah, it's a book that everybody would read and relate and learn about, again, the Igbo culture, which is my culture.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
Nnamdi, do you have any? I'm sure you do have some future projects, and what are you
Yeah.
working on next?
So I've been writing while I'm also like releasing all of these things that I've done. I have, which is this year particularly, is I would say it's a year of just like trying to understand grief. It's very
Sure.
strong. So while I wrote my memoir, I started working on a new feature film, my second feature film, which is called The Resurrection Road. And it's about a man's navigation through this thing called grief. It's going to be a psychological thriller set in Columbus, Montana, and it's going to be very beautiful, small film. So it's like you've seen the Hail Mary, now you've seen Water Girl. So it's this a very different. So Hail Mary is one direction that still navigates everything I'm doing, still navigates the same theme of family, loss, love. I'm still in the same, all my projects are the same thing, right? They're all following like a straight line. The Hail Mary, Water Girl, Onwuchekwa, then Restoration Road, they're all navigating family, grief, loss, life. But then again, what I'm doing also is I'm using these themes, but I'm exploring different themes, different genres. So like Hail Mary is more like a drama, war, and all of that. Water Girl is more supernatural. Now Resurrection Road is psychological thriller. You know,
Okay.
it's going to be psychological thriller and suspense, a little bit of horror there here and there, but more very much intense, dialogue based, neo-Western. It's a Western, but set in today's Montana. So it's one to look out for. It's just me now bringing my all my Montana experiences in this, but still telling a beautiful family psychological thriller, but from a one man's perspective.
All right. Well, some interesting projects that you've already been a part of, and some interesting ones that are coming up. And I really thank you for taking time to talk, and wish you well.
Appreciate it.
I also read that you said you're going to be the first Nigerian-born Oscar winner, so
That's what I
we're gonna
want.
we're gonna hold you to
I'm
that.
gonna I'm gonna bring that glory to Montana. You watch out. Watch out.
All right. You've been listening to a conversation with Bozeman filmmaker by way of Nigeria, Nnamdi Kanaga. His latest film, Water Girl, recently premiered in Helena and Bozeman. And next time on McGonigal's Chronicles, Making Montana Connections.
I always thought that our agency, Wildlife Services, USDA Wildlife Services, did more for the recovery of the grizzly bear than anything.
Valier author and former longtime USDA Wildlife Service specialist Mike Hogan discusses his book, Between Predator and Prey, 42 Years as a Government Hunter. If you have any ideas for guests for this podcast, I'd love to hear about them. Follow McGonigal's Chronicles on social media and rate the show wherever you get your podcasts. For McGonigal's Chronicles, Making Montana Connections, I'm Tim McGonigal.